right, welcome back, everybody, for a new episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those things you really have to hunt, search, research, get lucky to find, because they're just not at your LCS when you go on Wednesdays to pick up your new books. These are just some tough books that, like I said, you sometimes have to get lucky to find. Some high ratios, some low print stuff, rare books, just things that are just really difficult to track down. That said, hopefully you're enjoying this as well as all the other stuff here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see what books I want to look at this week, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I will be right back. All right, so to start us off this week, I thought, you know what? Let's look at another hard-to-find Delato. I know I mentioned we talked about the Dakin #1 Delato. There's only 1 in 25, that there was a decent number of them actually out there. I mentioned the X23 Delato that we've covered before as well. But here's another Delato from that time frame that I think just deserves our attention. And this is the Winter Soldier #1. I like this cover. It's really cool. I do not have this one yet. I've been looking for one, just hoping to get lucky to find one that fits my budget, because this is a little pricey. This is a 1 in 50, after all, from February of 2012. The estimated print run for the regular title is about 50,000 thereabouts, so the incentive is just over 1,000 copies for this 1 in 50 if we do that estimated quick ratio math. Again, these are not concrete numbers. These are estimates based on the best information available to us. I use Comicron to get a lot of these print run numbers and just double check ratios using the various other sites just to kind of take the best guess, because not all. Sometimes the ratios can be misleading, or you can't just trust eBay listings. Sometimes eBay listings will have things listed incorrectly. It's 1 in 25s or 1 in 50s when they are not that. That all said, what do we have in the census for this? This particular book, we have a solid 72 total in the CGC census, with 44 9/8s, 19 9/6s, and then a few others kind of rounding out that 72 number. And as I said, this book sells for a decent amount. Recent sale for this one had a 9/8 sell. Best offer on about $1,100. They accepted $775.41. Why is it so specific? Well, basically what they did was they accepted $1,000 Canadian, and then I had to do a quick USD conversion. And that's what it broke down to at the time of when I ran the conversion. So that's why the number is that specific, because it was accepted best offer of $1,000 Canadian. So with that, what's available if you want to go find this one for yourself now that you have a kind of an idea of the market? There are a few, surprisingly, for this one. Yes, there are 1,000 copies out there potentially, but I mean, 9.4 looking for 475, 9.8 only asking about $600. Not too bad there. Signature Series SS 9.8 that is asking 5,000. That one's way out of my range. And then there's a 9.4 CBCS that looks like it's asking for 525. So if I were to buy any of these, I'm probably going with that 9.8 for $600. I'm making an offer on it at least. I'm not going to, because I don't have an extra $500 laying around right now. But if I did, that would probably be the one I would take a shot at based on what I see on the market right now, personally. But as I said, my wallet's staying in my pocket right now because I don't have that kind of extra cash right this minute. But let's see what else we've got. Maybe I can find another hard to find book here that I can afford. Maybe it's the next one, which is Master of Kung Fu. Yes, you know, I like Shang-Chi. Master of Kung Fu #1. This is from the Secret Wars series. So this was in 2015, May of 2015 to be precise. This is a 1 in 25. I believe this is a Butch Geist cover, this particular one. Estimated print run on the title is only about 23,000 thereabouts. So our 1 in 25 will break down to about 936 potential copies. So a little bit less than the Delato 1 in 50, but still a decent amount at 900 plus. With that, not a lot in the census, only six in the CGC census, with 5 9/8s and a single 9/6. Copy sold. This one is not expensive. Copy sold. One sold for $8 just 2 days ago. So on June 12th, $8.99, someone who bought one of these straight up. I probably would pay $8 for this too, or $9, I guess, and plus shipping because, hey, it's still a Shang-Chi variant. And there aren't a lot of those. Granted, the more recent series, the new series, there's a lot of, incentive ratios now. But before that, before 2019, 2020, before the movie was in play, good luck finding a good Shang-Chi variant. There was that Secret Warriors one, I think, or Secret Avengers one, I'm sorry, and then the Avengers World 3, which is probably my favorite. But outside of those two, there aren't a lot to be had. But $9, one sold for just a couple of days ago. And if you want to go shopping on the market, well, there are copies. There's a $15 one from my comic shop, not too bad. There's also a $195 one raw out there as well. If you want to pay more than 10 times the amount of the My Comic Shop version, you can. And then there's a 9.8 asking for $205 plus $25 shipping from Canada. So there are your options if you're shopping for that one. So again, maybe not a ghost, but still hard to find because there's not a lot. There's still only a few copies out there at the moment. All right, we're going to stick with Marvel for another book. This one, I was trying to group it in with some of the other coverage that I've had with Nova, but didn't really fit, so it's kind of on its own. So I'm just randomly throwing in this Nova number 25, this Art Adams cover, which is really cool. I mean, you've got the Unworthy Thor down below. You got Captain Marvel on there as well. Sam Wilson's Captain America, Spider-Woman, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch. You got Hawkeye down below, and you got Sam Alexander just coming right at you in the middle there with what I think is a pretty solid cover. Art Adams is a solid artist. I do like a lot of his cover work, even though you don't hear a lot about it these days. He used to be one of the hotter cover artists, but these days only rarely do you get to, get calls to be like, oh, it's Art Adams. But that said, I did like the Storm that he has coming out this week. There's a X-Men Red 3. I think it's the 1 in 25. It's a pretty cool Storm cover by Art Adams that I really do like. And I think I ordered one. So, yeah, occasionally, like I said, I will grab the occasional Art Adams book. And with that, this is a 1 in 25 from December of 2014. Pretty good incentive ratio for this Nova book because at this time it was not a heavily printed book or heavily ordered. Only about 21,000 copies, so only about 872 potentials for the variant if we do that quick math based off of the incentive ratio. What's in the census for this one? Well, the census does have only two. You got a 9.6 and a 9.2. There's not even a 9.8, so maybe you can be the first if you find one out there. Maybe you could be the first 9.8. But only two. And like I said, 9.6 and a 9.2. Interesting. There were two sales recently, well, at least in the last couple of months. Granted, both of these were back in March. One raw sold for $80, and then a best offer on $90 where they accepted $69. So $70 to $80 raw are the two copies that sold, but that was a couple of months ago now. Like I said, those were both in March on the same day. It looks like March 26th for both. Interesting. So I wonder if it was the same buyer trying to double dip. Could be. Moving on to what's on the market. Well, on the market, there's a few. Got $75 buy it now, $100 buy it now, $100, $75 to $100 seems to be the asking price. Granted, that top one is at auction. So when I grabbed these numbers last night, it says 2 days left, so Thursday. So that auction will end on Thursday. There's no bids. Maybe you could sneak it for $45, or you can just outright buy it now for $75, which is still cheaper than the other $200 asks. Still, I would try to shoot closer to ratio personally to feel like I got a deal, but in that $40 range, it might not be too bad for this one if you can get a nice solid copy. Still, while it's still staying in my pocket though, and that's why it's still on the board as opposed to me telling you this story about how I ordered this when I was doing my research. I left this one for you guys, so if you guys are interested, have at it. And that's just going to wrap up the quick little segment I have for Marvel. And the reason why I have a quick little segment for Marvel is because I have a solid set of DC books to cover. These are all courtesy of Isaiah Flores' suggestion from way back. He gave me a bunch of DC books that he wanted me to cover way early on in this series. I've had them on my list what seems like forever. From the Batmans and the Talons, these high incentive ratios that DC was running back in this time frame. But the ones I want to talk about right now are all of the 1 in 200s for the Before Watchmen series, which have gorgeous Jim Lee covers. Like I said, I've been saving these for a little while for what I felt like the right time to do them. And I do like Jim Lee, as I've mentioned many times before. And I do not have any of these 1 in 200s, but I figured, all right, you know what? Let's run through them. Let's run through these 1 in 200s, starting with chronologically based off of release, Minutemen, #1. So here you have, what is this, the hood? I think that's what he went by. The hood, pretty cool cover. Darwin Cook on the inside of this book, but the 1 in 200s, all of them are Jim Lee covers in this same kind of almost like Usual Suspects type of format, because it looks like they have the the height lines behind them all. So pretty cool, pretty consistent cover set. Probably gonna be pretty tough for somebody to put these together, but I think somebody had tried, and we're gonna get to that. As I mentioned, this is a 1 in 200 from June of 2012, and this we're starting with in June. High print runs. These were heavily ordered, these series. So 100,000 plus on all of these first few at the very least. But still, even at over 100,000, 107,000 copies, you do 1 in 200 math. It's still only 537 potential copies of this variant out there, which really isn't that much. So don't let that main print run scare you, because this high ratio incentive is going to be tough to qualify for. Plus, then you have to question how many places ordered 200 copies. This wasn't back in the heyday of the store exclusive time either. So there's not a lot of store exclusives that you can say, well, that's where all the copies came from. So 537 potential copies of this first one out there. Decent numbers in the census for all of these, first few at least. 45 for this one, 29 eighths, 14 9/6s, 10 9/4s, and then looks like 1 9/2 to fill that out. Copies sold. And the reason why I said looks like somebody might be building these, because these all look like they might have been from the same seller. But this particular one bid on May 18th. Remember this May 18th date, because I saw a lot of these auctions ended on May 18th. $105 for this one. There's one copy. It's the only one I could find that sold in the last 3 months. $105 for this, which at half ratio, ain't too bad. Especially when you compare it to what's on the market. We do have 2 copies out there in the market, both asking over $400. One of them is raw. One of them is a 9/8. So if you want to buy it, you can. It's just going to cost you over $400. $425 can get you a slab copy. $493, or best offer, can get you a raw copy from the UK. Also, remember that UK price there, because we're going to see a familiar price and listings for a few of these as well, probably from the same seller who has these on the market at the moment. That's our first one. There's a few of these, so bear with me. They're worth it. They're worth it to keep an eye and keep looking at these. So don't tune out just because it's DC. Silk Spectre, probably one of my 2 favorites of this run. I really do like this one. Darwin Cook again, Amanda Connor on the interiors, but Jim Lee 1 in 200 on the this 1 in 200. Also June 2012. I think this came out the week after the last book. 102,000 plus gives us an incentive of maybe 514 when we do that math. Again, just because there's over 100,000 of the regular cover, and there are multiple variants. There's other ratios leading up to 1 in 200, but this was the highest, the 1 in 200. And there's also some foreign versions of these too, in like a black and white sketch kind of way. I think they might be from, I don't know if they're Mexican or they're from the UK, but there are foreign versions that are generally in that $50 range if you like the black and white sketch versions of these Jim Lees that I noticed when I was doing my research out there. In the census, what do we got in the census for this? 66 for this one, which is a little bit more than the last. Not surprising. Female cover is going to get a little bit of an extra bump as far as dollars as well as submissions. So 27 9/8, 23 9/6, and then a few others to round out that 66 total. We had one sale over the last 3 months, and it was at auction ending on May 18th. 2 bids on this one, $127.50. So still under ratio, and still on May 18th, and I believe from the same seller at the time, auction ending. So that's all that's moved in the last 3 months. But on the market, we do have a couple. We have a couple that you have options at. But again, they're not cheap. There is $493.68 out of the UK. I told you, remember that price, because it looks like that seller has 2 of these so far. There's also a raw asking $200 that has 12 watchers on it. There's a 9/8 asking $500 right now. And then there's a 9/4 from CBCS asking $232. So there are 4 copies of this one out there at the moment, if you were interested. But that's it. Let's keep it rolling. We still have a few more of these to do. As I said, Comedian on our next one. Again, Jim Lee. Pretty cool cover. You got him smoking a cigar. Brian Azzarello and J.G. Jones doing the art on the inside. Again, another pretty cool cover, 1 in 200. This is also, I believe, June. Again, these came out like every week of the month of June, these first 4. and then the rest kind of stagger a little bit from there. Print run, about the same, 104,000 plus, so maybe 520 potential for this particular incentive. All kind of in that same ballpark range of right around 500, though. CGC census, 59. Solid 59 on this one with 26 9/8s, 15 9/6s, 11 9/4s, and a few others just to round that out. We've had, as you might guess, one sale the last 3 months, and it was an auction that ended on May 18th. One bid, $100. So somebody got this at half ratio. I'm curious to see who might have won all these, and I'm wondering if it's one buyer. I kind of hope it's one buyer who is trying to amass a set, and hopefully they got it or got very close to it. Because, like I said, I can root for people. I'm rooting for everybody to have these in their collections. I'd love to have this in my collection, but honestly, I can't afford it. But that doesn't mean I don't hope that one of you guys can't obtain the set. Or maybe you already do. And if you do, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it. With that, there are a few copies for this one as well. I'm surprised that there's this many copies of these 1 and 200s actually out there. I thought it'd be a little tougher with there only being about 500 copies available total. But $480 for a raw copy, $350 for a 9/6, $493.68 out of the UK. Told you. Somebody's out of a set. And then there's another one who just also so happens to have $493.68. I think the $493.68 is probably a pound to USD conversion at the time. So it's probably like a listing. What would you say? Maybe $400, probably 400 pounds. And then that's probably the difference. Somewhere around that, it would be my ballpark guess of why the price seems so odd. But still, I believe one of those two, I think the bottom one is the same seller as the other ones that we've already covered, just based off the background, as I'm guessing. Moving on, let's go to Night Owl. Night Owl we have next. The Watchmen's version of Batman, or Blue Beetle, I guess. Michael J. Straczynski writing this one, and the Kuberts on art. Andy and Joe, with his dad doing some inking, I suppose. 1 and 200 on this, also June of 2012. This is the last one from June. Print run was, again, same ballpark, 101,000. So only about 506 of this potential incentive. So this is the lowest of these 4 so far. Not by much, though. Not by much. We're talking the difference between 506 and 540. So not a lot of copies less, but still. 42 in the census with 23 9/8s, 11 9/6s, and then a few others. One sale in the last 3 months, and it was at auction, and it ended on May 18th. One bid, $120. Still under ratio, only one bid, but it did sell. And once again, I hope it went to the same buyer. I hope all of these went to the same buyer. And then we have 4, another 4. There just seems to be copies of these out there, which was, again, surprising to me. Raw copy, 130, 9/6, $175, a 9/8 asking a healthy $425. And then our UK seller has $493.68. Actually, that might be not the same UK seller as the first 3, but this is one of the 2 $493.68 out of the UK there. That all I'm saying is if in the UK, you might have a shot at this if you have a lot of money and you want to go and buy all these because there are copies available. It's just they're pretty expensive. Moving on to our next one, it is Ozymandias. Ozymandias. Probably not my favorite of the group just because, I mean, his character, as much as I enjoyed him in the comics, it's not like a cool look as, you know, like the comedian might be. So you can't really do a lot as far as posing goes to make Ozymandias look cool, especially in the, you know, the gold and the robes. But hey, it is what it is. It's still a 1 in 200, and it's still from July now of 2012, coming the month after. Print run on this one dips a bit to about 88,000, so our incentive is down to about 441 copies, as opposed to those 500 plus on the last few. In the census, we've got 37 copies, so also dipping just a tiny bit with 24 9/8s, 7 9/6s, and then a few others. But what it hasn't changed is our one sale on May 18th, $122.50 on 2 bids this time. Available copies? Well, this time on available copies, we only got 2. We have a $350 raw, and we have a $493.68 out of the UK raw with that wood grain background. So our last 3 have had that wood grain background. So I think those 3 are from the same seller there out of the UK. Moving on. Probably one of the more popular characters out of the Watchmen group, Rorschach. Rorschach. So I guess he's kind of the character a lot of people gravitate towards from this series because he's the tough guy, the gritty, grimy, down on the street. Pretty cool look. You get the mask, you get the hat, the fedora, the trench coat. This one didn't come out until August of 2012. Also, 1 in 200, as all of these have been. Print run down still to about 85,000. So only about 427 copies for this one potentially. And in the census, there are 41, 29 eighths, 12 9/6s, and a few others. But unlike all of the rest so far, we did not have that May auction that ended on May 18th. So no copies have sold in the last 3 months, unfortunately, on this one. And if you want to go buy one, well, you got one shot. And it's $493.68 out of the UK from our wood grain background seller. So the last 4 from this same seller. So if you want a copy, there's your shot. Up next, we have Dr. Manhattan, and thankfully he has his undies on. Not as any fans of the movie might remember, just the blue dong. But Jim Lee still does a pretty solid Dr. Manhattan, if you ask me. Pretty cool cover. 1 in 200, obviously. Also from August of 2012. This one had a print run dipping down to 77,000. So the incentive is only about 387 copies. So now we're getting really low here. We're getting really tough. We're getting really tough to find probably copies of these things, one would think. In the census, however, 44. Solid 44 with 39 eighths, which is the most 9/8 out of most of these so far. Well, at least the last few, I should say. Maybe not all, out of all. I don't remember all the way back to the beginning. But 44 9/8, 44 in the census, 39 eighths, 9 9/6s, and 5 9/4s on this one. No March 18th auction for this one either. So there have been no sales on this particular book the last 3 months. And if you want to go shopping for one, we do have one. And yes, it's from our wood grained background seller out of the UK for $493.68. Moving on, probably my other favorite cover out of this group. I know I'm gravitating towards like the sexy female covers, but he generally does it well, so that's why I like them. But this is Moloch, actually. This is Moloch #1, which makes it interesting. Edward Rizzo doing the art on the inside, also pretty solid. Straczynski writing this one. This is a 1 in 200. This one came out in November of 2012. So this one had a long gap, not a long gap, but a couple of months from the last few. So November 2012 on this one. Print run dips down to 59,000. So our incentive is under 300, maybe at about 296 copies potentially for this one. Gonna make it tougher. And in the census, we only got 23 total, with only 6 9/8s for this one, but 11 9/6s. So this is the first case we've had where the 9/6s have been more plentiful than the 9/8s, and then 3 9/4s and 3 9/2s for this one, for rounding out that pretty small 23 number as far as what's in the census on these. This one, however, did have an auction in May, but it was not May 18th. I still feel like it might have been the same seller, though, because the background picture still looks very similar, and the shipping price of $11.75 also matches up, but this was sold on May 14th of 2022, one bid, $120. So still under ratio, even though this one is under 300 potential copies. And it being under 300 potential copies, I figured there would be one or none available for this one, and I was wrong. There are all of 2 copies available. But one's asking a cool grand raw, and then our wood grained UK seller for $493.68. So UK's got the best price. Well, not only in the other cases, only copies. This one, the best priced copy. Moving on to our final one, I believe. Dollar bill. Dollar bill #1. This is a one-shot. Pretty cool. It's got like a Captain America meet Superman kind of vibe to it, but he's a little bit on the tinier side. But this is still a 1 in 200 from January of 2013. So this one came out a couple of months after the last. And print run has dipped down all the way to 42,000. So we're looking at an incentive ratio potentially of 211 copies. 211 potential copies for this one out there. Numbers getting real small. Sun's getting real low. In the CGC census, only 23 copies on this one as well, but 13 of them are 9/8s, and then 5 9/6s, 2, and a few more to round out the others. But one did sell in the last 3 months. And yes, it was our glorious May 18th auction sales where a lot of these have sold. $90 for this one. So under half ratio for this one. From that same seller, it looks like it based off everything that I could see. Hopefully the buyer was the same buyer. So like I said, they're building out a set and maybe they got very close to completing it. I figured there would be, like, again, one or none of this one out there as well. But surprisingly, there was again two options. $200 raw, so asking ratio, and then $350 for a 9.6 SS copy. So two available for this one as well, which was, again, a big surprise to me. Now, speaking of these twos, things coming in twos, we're going to move on now from our Before Watchmen. Thank you for bearing with me if that was too much DC for you. I apologize, but they were all Jim Lee, and I thought that was pretty cool to go through all of them. That said, I do have a couple of more books just for us to wrap up here. We're going to the indie side. We're going to hit up IDW because, I don't know, I've been liking looking at a lot of these IDW books lately. And in particular, kind of following up on my Big Trouble in Little China, but we're going to get our double action of Kurt Russell and do our Big Trouble in Little China meets Escape from New York combo. This is the movie poster version where we get Snake Plissken and Jack Burton together. 2 Kurt Russells for the price of 1. Can't beat that. This came out in October of 2016. This was the 1 in 25 retailer incentive. So this is the RI for this particular book. This one had a healthy print run. This was the #1 selling book for that month. Yes. Why did I say IDW? This was Boom, I believe. But this Boom book was the #1 selling book for that month with 421,000 copies sold. So that makes our incentive, our 1 in 25 incentive, 16,865 potential copies. Doing that math, if everything we read is correct and these estimates match up. I'll agree, there are lots of copies of this regular cover out there. I've seen this a lot in dollar bins. I've seen plenty of them out there. However, I do not see this incentive variant, which it's surprising considering what should be our 16,000 plus incentive. But here we are. 46 in the CGC census for the variant, for the RI, the movie poster edition, as I mentioned. And 45 of those 46 are all 9.8s. And there's a single 9.2 out there as well. And only one sold. The last 3 months, only one copy sold. And it was a 9.8 that sold for only $70. I know if there's 16,000 copies, there's got to be tons of these out there. It's probably not worth all that much, but it's Snake Plissken and Jack Burton together. I would have paid $70 for this 9.8, so that's a good buy if you ask me. And that was back in April. I'm in for that price personally, but we'll see if I can find one because you know what? I checked and checked. I double checked. Granted, maybe something's popped up. Maybe I was doing a search wrong. Maybe I did something wrong. But I could not find a single copy of this darn book out there right now. I was shocked. There's almost 17,000 potential copies, and I couldn't find one, and only one is sold in the last 3 months. Something's got to be wrong. But hey, it is what it is. This is based on the data. This is based on this moment in time when I went looking. That's what I found. So that sounds like I'm wrapping up, but I'm not wrapping up yet because I got one more book to talk about. And this was something we mentioned on Star Wars because I think JJ, I don't know if it was JJ or Jedi who shared it in our chat. I think it was JJ who shared it in our chat. But this next book is going to be one of those toughies to find as well. Kind of piggybacking on this idea. I probably should have went with this one first because it came out first. But this is Escape from New York, the incentive variants. Virgin cover, pretty cool tattoo on the stomach, pretty cover. 1 in 100 incentive from December of 2014. 1 in 100 on this. And despite the fact that the team up of Jack Burton and Snake Plissken was 420,000 copies, this individual book from 2 years earlier did not have that same print run. There was only 15,000 copies printed of this one. So a 1 in 100, which is also a higher ratio incentive, only has potentially 154 copies of this out there. Think of that. That's a pretty small number. If you ask me, only 154 on this potentially. So what's in the census? Only 4. We got 2 9.8s, a 9.6, and a 9.0. Copies sold, we've had none. No copies sold in the last 3 months. And you were probably going to say, you know what? And there's probably no copies available, right? I would have thought that too. But I would have been wrong, and I am wrong, because there are three copies out there right now. Shocking to me. All, granted, all are a ratio or up, with $110 raw, $150 raw, and then another $105 raw out of Australia down below. So there are 3 copies out there. I was shocked to see that. But that's what we got, and that's what I got for you this week. Hopefully you enjoyed that weird little selection and kind of a little side. We just kind of parked in the before Watchmen area for a while to go through all those 1 and 200s, but I still thought it was worth it to see those numbers and those print runs go down. But even with that all said, and how low some of those incentive variant potentially could be as far as print run numbers go, there are still a lot of books that can only be considered hard to find because there are multiple copies of them out there. At least 2, I'm putting you in hard to find. If you got at least 2 copies out there, putting you in hard to find. So most of those before Watchmen's are hard to find, including our Winter Soldier, our Nova, our Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu book, and that 154 potential copied Snake Plissken book, that Virgin 1/100. With 3 copies out there, I got to just make it hard to find. Can't call it a ghost. But these 3, for this week, I'm going to call them ghosts because there's either 1 copy for the 2 before Watchmen's or no copies. For whatever reason, there are no copies of that Snake Plissken and Jack Burton cover. No copies, and I want one. I'll go find it. I'm sure it'll pop up eventually, but I couldn't find one. So for right now, at this moment in time, none out there. I got to call all 3 of these ghosts. Agree, disagree, let me know what you think in the comments. Give me some more suggestions. Like I said, I've been saving a couple of these, those ones from Isaiah for a while now. Like I said, I think he suggested them in like episode 2, and this is episode 57, I think, thereabouts. I don't know. We've been doing this a while. We've been doing this over a year now, and hopefully you're still enjoying it, and hopefully you're still enjoying the channel. Thank you for stopping by and checking this out. I appreciate every one of you. I'm still, like I said, having a heck of a good time doing all this stuff. I love looking into these books because I'm doing it anyway. And yeah, this was a whole selection of books that I don't believe I had any of these this week. But if you do, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see them. I love seeing these books in people's collections. It gives me hope that I can add into my collection. And yeah, just share them with the community. Let's all just, just have fun. Have fun collecting comics and talking comics. And with that, I will see you guys tomorrow for the tax show. I think we got our buddy Robert Fordham stopping by to talk some foreign books with us. And we might tier list some fun foreign movies adapted for U.S. Should get a little lively there as well. Like I said, I'm still having fun doing all this stuff. So hopefully you guys are having fun watching this stuff. That's a little preview for what to expect tomorrow, as well as the Sunday show coming up for more Star Wars. And yeah. I'll see you guys also on Thursday with some dollar bin digging. And with that, take it easy.